Hey, this is Jack Downs, a little review of the informative introduction presentation. I'm making this for you because with the break and then with the exam, it would be easy to become distracted or forgetful about this presentation, which is really, these presentations are more important than any exam, so you need to make sure to be on schedule for them. And the informative introduction, remember, will be presented on Thursday. So theoretically, you should be preparing it so you're ready to practice on Tuesday and or Wednesday, as usual. Okay, so this was the handout. Let me just go over this with you a little bit. The point is, you've probably started with you either brainstormed an idea or maybe more likely, use one of the ideas that you developed for the SPS exercise. Remember, for that process, you had to write a specific purpose statement, you had to write a central thesis, you had to write the main ideas, you had to list some sources. So that work, you take one of those that you think you could actually do an introduction for, you start with that work. You start with that content. So find that and you're going to develop it further. Put it in its own file and do some work on it. And you can also look at my notes that I may have given you on it, on the SPS. So there's no other restrictions on the idea except that it must be informative. Now you are only going to speak the introduction, but it's a very full-fledged introduction. It's not timed, so it doesn't require that it be a certain amount of time, but it does require that it has a certain amount of content in it. So you are going to use at least 3 attention-getting devices. So you're really going to throw in the attention-getting devices. I'm going to talk more about these on Tuesday. But you have a handout, which I've not gone over yet, about starting and ending your speech. So the introduction is part of it there. So look over that introduction portion of that handout. And in your textbook, there's already been attention-getting devices discussed too. So you're really going to try to get attention. And we're using 3 of them. Why 3 of them? Isn't that too much? It's a lot, but it's really to make this a super full introduction, right? And to force you to really think about attention-getting devices. Then, as you're presenting it, you're going to build to your topic. Now, your topic has to have 2 sources that you cite in your introduction. So you're not just using sources in the body. You're not doing the body. You're just doing the introduction. So you have to get some facts about your topic that are going to be revealing and interesting. Something that's going to really make us want to know more about it, right? So you have to do a little bit of research. You already probably did a little bit to prepare what you had for the SPS exercise. Now you have to do a little bit more to actually get some facts you can say. So you're going to both say these facts and you're going to attribute them to where they came from as you try to explain how interesting this idea is. This informative presentation is going to be, you're talking in the introduction. So after your attention-getting devices, building to explaining about the topic, you're going to list a couple of sources as you give those facts related to them. And ideally, you need to do more than just list the sources. You must leave, remember, you need to add some credentials to them. Ideally, 2 credentials to each one, like who wrote it, where it was written, when it was written, when it was updated, other information about the publication it came from or something. Okay, so you're going to build this introduction from your attention-getting devices through 2 sources to the topic. Good. And then, if you've done that and you've really given us some baseline information, got us really interested, given us that need to know, then you're going to flow right into your signposted preview statement, which is just the information that would have been in your main ideas, right? So you have already written that out. But of course, you're using we language now, and you're speaking it. You're changing that. It's not just we will learn, we will reveal, we will discuss, and so on. So you're going to change that, the way you say it. So in your paperwork, in your outline paperwork you're writing, yes, you're going to write those main ideas, structure them maybe in a somewhat more boring way. But here you're going to speak them in a more interesting way. And when you get done with the signposted preview statement, you are done with your presentation. However, do notice all this other information. What does it say? in your typed document, you will list the attention-getting devices you plan to use. You will write your SPS out, right? You will label it. You will write your central thesis. You will label it. You will create a preparation outline as if you're giving the entire speech. I gave you a copy of a preparation outline. You see your textbook, chapter 11. And I have another one I'm going to show you here, which I will attach to the email that's going out to you. And you will create a bibliography for the sources that you use. So it has to be at least 2 sources that you cited. I want you to list those as part of your preparation outline. Okay. So what is this preparation outline? Well, yes, you can look in your textbook and look at an example there. But I'm giving you another example. I'm giving you an example from a student, a previous student and TA in this class. It's a very good one. This is an informative presentation outline. Now, you're doing the informative introduction, but really, this is just the paperwork that went along with a presentation like we will do later, but the paperwork is the same idea, right? The paperwork for the full informative or the paperwork for the informative introduction is really the same. The difference is in the informative introduction, you just speak the introduction. What's going to be coming up next, of course, or soon, actually next and somewhat soon, is going to be the full informative, where you have to speak the entire presentation. But the paperwork is the same. That's why I'm showing this to you. Kenzie's paperwork, of course, the general purpose was to inform. She wrote the SPS out and she labeled it. She wrote the central thesis out and she labeled it. And then she wrote introduction. Now she's going into an outline of the presentation, including an outline of the introduction that you're going to be giving in this case. So her topic was the benefits of learning a second language at a young age. Okay, that's an interesting topic. And so she's going to begin with a quotation, right? And she's going to continue with an anecdote. And actually, you have to have 3. She only has 2 listed here. But she has something else along the lines of learning new languages is important for today's world. Try to make it important that way. And then she's going to have sources. She only lists 1 source here. You need to have 2 sources listed in your introduction and how you're going to use them, what facts. So she's writing out her introduction. She did not do this in a true outline form. She did it as a bullet points. It probably should have been a true outline form, but that's okay. Introduction is a little bit different. And then she talks about, so then she goes into her signposted preview statement, right? And then she does a transition. And that's very nice to put transitions in between your introduction and your body, and actually in between your main points inside your body. Plan how you're going to transition through to them. Then what does she do? You have to continue with the paperwork as if you were doing the entire presentation. List the body, list the main ideas as Roman numerals, and within them list the things you're going to say, the topics you try to bring up, right? And then a transition, and main idea number 2, right? And then she's listing her points, including her sources, and then she does a transition. She does main idea number, this is supposed to be number 3 here, not 1, that's whatever. So each of those are supposed to be, I think she has some trouble getting her main ideas to come out as 1, 2, and 3. All right, and then she has a conclusion, which she lists, in this case she does bullet points, but it probably would be better to make it in more of a true outline form, and then she lists her bibliography. Now, she lists more sources because this was for the entire presentation, but you are going to have to list at least the 2 sources you use in your introduction. You still have to have an outline that includes your body and with your main ideas, and then sub ideas, and then your conclusion. So the paperwork is much more extensive. Okay. It will be slightly different from this because yours requires more attention-getting devices. So your introduction portion of your paperwork will probably be a little bit enhanced. But in general, if your paperwork is similar to this, you will have done a good job. And then you will see how you will refine this paperwork and make it even more important as you move later into the full informative. So hopefully that gives you a little rundown. The presentation itself does require practice as usual, and there is information in it, and you do need to do some preparation. But just as important in some ways is all the one big chunk of paperwork you have to do, which you can also submit on Brightspace and or bring in person if you prefer. But yes, the paperwork is required for this presentation too. So please get yourself ready for that presentation for next week.